Hey everyone, I'm Stephanie. I'm a book-loving, notebook-hoarding reader and writer on a mission to change lives one book and one notebook at a time. And this is the Get Literate podcast. On this podcast, we explore the power of leading literate lives. We talk all things books and reading, notebooks and writing, and everything in between to make our lives better. And no matter what better means to you, the pages inside books and notebooks can help us get there. So, each week, we'll mix together books, notebooks, mindful practices, and creativity to cultivate a life we love. Now, grab a notebook and your TBR list, and let's get literate. Hey everyone, Stephanie here. Welcome back to another episode of the Get Literate podcast. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about something that's been on my mind both personally and professionally for a while: artificial intelligence. Now, it might seem a little bit odd to talk about artificial intelligence on a podcast that works really hard to build our actual intelligence through reading and writing. But you can't quite escape the AI or ChatGPT sweep that's been going through the country, or at least I can't. I'm having conversations about this AI tool with my college-aged son. I'm having lots of conversations with fellow educators about how this tool is changing the landscape for writing instruction, as well as raising some pretty big red flags of how to teach students about plagiarism or the difference between their own writing and artificially generated writing. There's so many things to consider. And quite honestly, what I've been doing is just ignoring it and deciding not to use the tool at all because there are so many unknowns about it. But then I realized, hold up a hot second. I am working really hard in my life right now to cut down the amount of time I spend typing on a computer. I try voice messages. I try voice to text software. And I really changed up the way I go about my job and my daily living in order to preserve the energy that I have for my hands and my wrists and my elbows to move well. And as I was thinking about this tool and learning and seeing on social media how others were using it, I thought, why am I ignoring this? What if this is a tool that can make our reading and writing lives better? So I decided to explore. I have been exploring ChatGPT for all things: for productivity, for helping me write emails, for creating agendas and presentations and article summaries. I haven't used it for the podcast or to write blog posts because I really feel that that's me. That's my passion. I want to do that. But I have been exploring how it can help me do those things and actually get me away from the computer so it can do the work instead. And in that exploration, I had a little bit of fun with ChatGPT in relation to my reading life, and I wanted to share it with you. I asked ChatGPT, the AI tool, 3 questions that could help me boost my own reading life. All of those questions focused on what should I read next. Now, on this podcast, I love to read books on a particular topic and then explore that topic and think about how it could relate to my own life. So I wanted to play around a bit and discover if ChatGPT could actually help me decide what to read next, or help me choose books that can actually make my life better, as I always want them to do. So I am here today to share with you 3 of the prompts I entered into ChatGPT and what the responses were. And I've got to tell you, I was really surprised. First of all, I am hooked on the possibilities for this tool. Yes, there are some things I worry about, but I'm overwhelmingly in favor for the new ways of thinking and the new possibilities and the new levels of productivity that this tool could bring to us. But I was blown away by how accurate it was in thinking about my personal reading life, and I was really excited about the self-reflection it prompted me to engage in. Just like all technology tools, it's more than the tool. It's the combination of the tool and the user and the experience. So let's dive in to my ChatGPT experiment for my reading life. The very first thing I entered into the chat was a very simple question. What should I read next? Now, I typed that in, and here's what the tool gave me back. It depends on your interests. Here are a few suggestions based on different genres. If you enjoy classic literature, you might want to read The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald or To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. If you prefer contemporary fiction, you might like Normal People by Sally Rooney or The Vanishing Half by Bennett. If you're into science fiction, you could try Dune by Frank Herbert or The Three-Body Problem by Lou Sixon. If you like mystery and thriller novels, you might enjoy The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides or The Girl on the Train by Paula Hawkins. And if you're interested in nonfiction, you could read Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind by Yuval Noah Harari or Becoming by Michelle Obama. These are just a few suggestions, but there are countless great books out there to explore. This was like having my own personal book shopper. First of all, I loved how it divided up such a broad question into specific responses based on genres. As readers, we all have different genres that we love to lean into. And here, it's allowing me to literally lean into the genres that I like and the genres I enjoy. But it's also giving me a couple of selections and genres that might be less familiar to me, really prompting me to think about what I wanted out of this question. Did I want more books that are going to be aligned to what I already love so I could stay in that reading path? Or did I want to try something new with these suggestions? I was able to get a little bit of both and to think about what I wanted to get out of my reading life in the act of asking this question. So I decided to ask it another question, but with more specificity of what I was hoping to get out of my reading life so I could get a little bit more personalized recommendations. Here's what I asked. I am a 44-year-old woman who loves reading realistic fiction that I can relate to. What should I read next? Now, here are those automated responses. Based on your interest in realistic fiction, here are a few suggestions for books you might enjoy. An American Marriage by Tahari Jones. This novel explores the impact of wrongful imprisonment on a young African-American couple's marriage. Number 2, Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng. This novel examines family dynamics and the complexities of race, class, and privilege in a suburban community. Number 3, Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. This novel tells the story of a socially awkward woman who learns to connect with others and confront her troubled past. Number 4, The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks by Rebecca Skloot. This nonfiction book tells the story of the woman whose cells were used without her knowledge to make major medical breakthroughs and explores issues of race, ethics, and scientific progress. And number 5, The Dutch House by Anne Patchett. This novel follows a brother and sister as they navigate the complex legacy of their wealthy and dysfunctional family. I loved these selections. First of all, some of them I already knew about. They were already on my TBR list. They were already on my bookshelf or in my library holds because they had been recommended to me, or they were books that I saw and I knew I would like reading because I love realistic fiction, because I love books that I can relate to, and I love a good family saga. So I was pretty impressed with the fact that these 5 books actually hit pretty close to the mark for just an artificial intelligent tools response. So I decided to ask it something else. Here's what I got specific with. If it got such good recommendations for me based on the genre I said I loved, realistic fiction, and the purpose I wanted to relate to the book. I wanted to see if it could go deeper. I wanted to see if it could really get in my reading brain and recommend some books for me. So here's what I asked it. What should I read next based on this Goodreads profile? And I pasted in my Goodreads profile. I wanted to see if it could do something with that information and actually give me books that I personally would like to read based on my past books that I've read. I couldn't believe the response. Here's what I got. Based on Stephanie Affinito's Goodreads profile, it looks like she's interested in professional development, education, and literacy. Geez, that pretty much nailed me in a second. Here are a few books that may be of interest to her. The Read Aloud Family by Sarah Mackenzie. This book provides practical advice on how to make reading aloud a regular and enjoyable part of family life. The Art of Coaching, Effective Strategies for School Transformation by Elena Aguilar. This book offers guidance for instructional coaches and other educators on how to support teachers and promote positive change in schools. Number 3, The Book Whisperer, Awakening the Inner Reader in Every Child by Donalyn Miller. This book explores how to cultivate a love of reading in children and create a classroom culture that fosters lifelong learning. Number 4, Cultivating Genius, an equity framework for culturally and historically responsive literacy by Goldie Muhammad. This book provides a framework for creating culturally responsive literacy instruction that empowers students and promotes equity. And then number 5, the Writing Strategies book, Your Everything Guide to Developing Skilled Writers by Jennifer Saravallo. This book offers practical strategies for teaching writing to students of all ages and levels. I hope these suggestions are helpful and provide Stephanie Affinito with some new ideas for her reading list. I mean, are you kidding me? This tool can actually read through our Goodreads profile, figure out who we are, and then spit out book recommendations for us. And here's the thing, that was a pretty accurate reading. I do work in professional development and education and literacy, and I love all of those things. And I have read 4 out of 5 of those books. So those recommendations were spot on. I was blown away by how quickly, literally within seconds, it scanned the profile, figured out some things about me, and gave those recommendations. But it also got me thinking. I have an activity that I love doing with adults and students. And the activity is, what if your book stack could talk? And I basically encourage people to look at the last 5 books that they've read, to put them into a stack, to look at the titles and the authors and the storylines, and then ask yourself, if your book stack could talk, what would it say? Would it say that you love nonfiction? Would it say that you love to get lost into a story? Would it say that you prefer to live in a fantasy land, right? What would your book stack say? That reminded me of this activity because clearly my Goodreads profile says something about who I am as a reader, who I am as a person. And it got me thinking, is the profile that I have out there the kind of profile I really want to be, or I want to become, or I want to be seen as a reader? So the process of asking these questions and getting these recommendations really helped me reflect on my own reading life and what I want out of it. And while I love a good professional book, when I think about my reading life, my personal reading life, I want personal books. I want to get lost in some fiction. So the last question I asked ChatGPT was this: what fiction books should I read next based on this Goodreads profile? And I typed in my profile again. Here's what it said. Just listen. Based on Stephanie Affinito's Goodreads profile, it looks like she enjoys reading a variety of fiction genres, including historical fiction, contemporary fiction, and young adult fiction. Here are a few books that may be of interest to her. Now, ready? Let's look at these 5 recommendations. Number 1, The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. This historical fiction novel tells the story of 2 sisters in Nazi-occupied France during World War II and their experiences during the war. Number 2, Anxious People by Frederick Bachman. This contemporary fiction novel follows a group of strangers who become trapped together in an apartment during a failed bank robbery. Number 3, The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. This novel explores race, identity, and family secrets in the story of twin sisters who grow up in a small Black community in the American South. Number 4, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. This fantasy novel follows a young woman who makes a Faustinian bargain to live forever, but is cursed to be forgotten by everyone she meets. And number 5, The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. This young adult novel tells the story of 2 teenagers who have terminal illnesses who fall in love and navigate the complexities of life and death. I hope these suggestions are helpful and provide Stephanie Affinito with some new ideas for her reading list. Nailed it. So not only did it scan my Goodreads profile, but it gave me suggestions based on the authors that they knew I loved. So I haven't read The Nightingale, but I have read Kristen Hanna and rated her highly. I haven't read Anxious People by Frederick Bachman, but I have read Beartown and rated it highly. I haven't read The Fault in Our Stars by John Green, but I do love young adult novels. And even though it doesn't know this, I did see the movie and I love that too. Now, The Vanishing Half and The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, I knew I would love because I have already read it. So maybe there's a little kink in the AI system. It can read the profile and it can get some general characteristics about me, but it didn't catch in my read shelf that I already read The Vanishing Half and The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. But it did nail the kinds of books I love, the titles that I know I love, and the authors that I love too. So this was quite exciting. I mean, think of the possibilities. I've got all sorts of ChatGPT prompts running through my head, from what should I read next to what should I write next? What are good notebook prompts for when I'm feeling sad? What are good notebook prompts to welcome in the spring season? I want to go to Italy on a vacation. What are some books I can read first? There are so many possibilities for this. Now, normally we would head to Google and do it. We would head to our favorite blogs and do it. But what if we headed to ChatGPT? I'm already thinking of ways that we can start bringing this tool into our reading and writing lives, but also just into our regular lives, and certainly in my educational world as well. So here's what I think you should do. I think you should try it out. I think you should go online, download the ChatGPT tool, create your free account, and then have some fun. Ask it, what should I read next? Tell it a little bit about yourself, and then say, what should I read next? Let it scan your Goodreads profile and then give you something to read. Tell it a book you loved. I loved The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. What other books might I like? I think this will give us a new place to explore some new ideas, some new books, some new connections in our reading lives. Now, don't worry, my book list that I share with you on the Get Literate podcast will always be book lists that I am curating myself because I've read the books or they are on my personal TBR. But you can bet I'm going to have fun exploring this as I try to think of new ways to research and curate some of the books that I want to share. And I hope that you do too. So after you give it a try, let me know how it goes. Head online to itletlife.com and share in the show notes what you explored in your own ChatGPT journey, or better yet, recommend some additional books that maybe weren't recommended for me, but you think I'll like too. And as always, you can head online to social media and find me at Affinito Lit, and then let me know what books ChatGPT recommended for you, or how you think it just might help give your reading life a little bit of a boost. And before we go, if your writing life needs a little bit of a boost, if you're looking for ways to start a new notebooking or journaling habit this spring, I've got you. April 18th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, I'm offering a 1 hour workshop live along with a whole host of additional on demand resources to help you start and keep a notebooking habit this season. If you're a member of my Get Literate Patreon community, this is yours for free. You are automatically invited to come along to this 1 hour workshop. But if you're not a member and you just want to take it as a standalone session, then you can head to alitlife.com and you can find more about this workshop there, as well as some of my more recent social media posts. So either way, ChatGPT has us covered for your reading life. I have you covered for your writing life, and hopefully we'll see what kind of magic comes from either one of those tools. So that's it for me today. Thanks so much for listening, and happy reading, everyone. Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Get Literate podcast. You'll find links to all the books, resources, and ideas mentioned in the show notes and at alitlife.com. And if you want more, you might like to join my Patreon community. There, you'll find additional inspiration for your reading and writing lives, like bonus podcast episodes, book calendars, monthly book clubs, notebooking challenges, live events, giveaways, and much more. It's only $5 a month, and you get instant access to all the previous content too. You can learn more at getliterate.co. But one more thing. If you love what you listened to today, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast, or take a screenshot of the episode and text it to a friend. This helps the podcast grow and builds our bookish and notebookish community too. Thanks so much for listening.